The city of Lusaka has a vacancy. The mayoral seat was left vacant following the death of Mr. Wilson Kalumba. Now, the constitution of Zambia allows for a by-election. In the next few days, the electorate in Lusaka will be voting for their choice of mayor. 9 candidates are contesting this seat. Good evening. This is Nightlive. I'm Francesca Phiri-Banda. We'll take a break. Welcome back. My guest tonight is the RPP mayoral candidate for Lusaka, Leslie Chikuse. Now, this is an interactive show and will allow you to send your contributions or comments through calling us on 0950 936 271. The phone lines are open. You can call us as soon as you can. And tonight we're discussing Mr. Chikuse's vision for Lusaka should you elect him as mayor on the 26th of July. Now, Mr. Chikuse, what is making you so confident to be the best candidate of scooping this position that is vacant, the position of Lusaka, mayor of Lusaka?
Yes, I think that what is making me very confident is my experience that I've had with the residents of Lusaka. I think that I've had a very good interaction, and I know the problems that the people of Lusaka are facing. Now, my experience borders in both in political, you know that I've been, of course, branch secretary, ward secretary up to national secretary, the deputy, acting deputy and vice national secretary for the MMD, and also the fact that I've worked with ward development committees, zone development committees, and also the residence development committees, and also because of my interaction when I was JICA, country coordinator, where I worked to teach the youths and the women on coming up with proposals so that they could have access to loans and so on, and also having to transform them through the game of sport. So basically we went in almost all the communities where we came up with basic centers, transformation centers, where we created opportunities in terms of skills, to teach people how they can have life-sustaining skills. So because of that, and of course the fact that I'm into sports, and I know what we can do also to use sport as an avenue of peace in the city, because that is one of the roles of the mayor, that the mayor must be there to ensure and provide for peace in the city, because he's the father of the city. So I think I've got vested experience, I've got interactive, but also I'm cognizant with some of the challenges that we have in the city.
Before you get to that, we just wanted to just get your view. Lusaka was once known as the garden city. Would see clean lawns on the roundabouts there, but now it's very rare to see very green lawns being maintained, especially by the Lusaka City Council. What plans do you have, should you be elected, to restore the lost glory of Lusaka, which was once known as the Garden City?
Yes, I think that, of course, Lusaka was a garden city. A lot of things have changed. People have moved into the central business looking for survival. Of course, there are more buildings than the way they were before. So we have a lot of buildings, and so some areas where there was supposed to be some lawns, they have built, buildings and so on. But I think that now we have a better even opportunity to ensure that the city is more clean, because most of the area has got buildings. So the only problem that we've had is that we have not prioritized sanitation. So I think to keep Lusaka green, what we need is first to work on the water articulation. So we need to have a very, very serious partnership, which we have already, but perhaps strengthen the partnership with the Lusaka Water and Sewerage to ensure that all the areas into Lusaka, all the buildings have got access to clean water, and also running water that would be able to help them, keep the city clean. But also we need to find a lasting solution when it comes to street vending. We need to ensure that we find better trading places for the street vendors, so that they could also be able to sustain their livelihood. Once we do that, then that's when we can come up with a clear, localized system of having to plant trees again in the city, having to create the city to be to be green again. So it's not just about having the city having to be green by flowers and so on, but also when we talk about green, we are talking about having to work on the buildings themselves. We need to be able to engage the stakeholders, especially the private stakeholders, so that they could be able to start upgrading their buildings, painting their buildings so that they look better, and then also engaging the youths into tree planting and so on, including some street vendors. Once we come out with some of the key solutions for the street vendors, some of them could sustain their livelihood by way of employment, to be able to plant trees and so on and so forth.
While we're still on the issue of keeping Lusaka green and clean, we move on now to the issue of garbage collection. What will you do to ensure that the Lusaka City Council generates enough revenue to increase its garbage collection and also ensure that the street vendors are eradicated? We do know that, at the beginning, or rather late last year, the vendors were wiped away from town due to the scourge of cholera that came about. So now, how will you ensure that that is maintained to keep the vendors away from the city in order to keep it clean, and the revenue collection for the council?
Yeah, I think that when it comes to issues to do with street vending, it's not just about chasing the vendors and then having to have a temporal measure as a way of dealing with the street vendors. They need to be given a permanent solution. They need to be helped in terms of empowerment, in terms of having to give them permanent locations where they could do their business and sustain their livelihood. Because I can tell you that today the Lusaka City Council is fighting with the street vendors because they can't stay away, because they have to survive. And the reason is very simple. I think that we did not package ourselves correctly in terms of communication to the street vendors when we chased them, and we chased them without notice. So I think that what we need to do is we could have perhaps come up with trading areas. I know that, of course, there are certain methods that are being done. When you go to Kamwala, they have started coming up with certain trading areas. But I think that it must be done localizing or perhaps maybe all the constituencies. Once we do that, then the street vendors will do their businesses within the confinements where they are. And once they do that, then there will be no much need for them to to come into the central business. Of course, when you do that, because you have created the alternative areas which are there, then you can become a little bit serious and harsh. But for now, perhaps people are trying to be as flexible as possible, because we have failed to create, number one, we have not created enough jobs, decent jobs. Number two, we have not created alternative trading areas. So I think the right approach is that we need to actualize the decentralization process that is enshrined in the Constitution, to ensure that power goes to the people. We have trading areas in the constituencies, trading areas possibly in the wards, so that people can trade from there. So what this means is that we need to take the council offices in the communities. We need to take Pakra in the communities, Lusaka Water in the communities, maybe in the wards. Once we do that, then we decongest Lusaka. The traders will be able to trade. Then we have an opportunity to clean Lusaka. Now, when you talk about garbage collection, I think this is something that is very, very important, because we just we had an outbreak of cholera, and I think that we must invest much more in this. So I think that at least every constituency, we need not less than 3 service trucks that must be there to help the residents collect garbage. But I still feel that, apart from the many suggestions that have been made, that we bring in private companies to try and help, I think that is okay, but we must not forget about using the same problem to create employment for our people. So we need to localize. What I mean is that we need to revamp the residence development committees, the ward development committees, the constituencies, but not only revamp them, but motivate them, so that they become the engines of having to clean the areas. Because there's no one who can come and clean your house better than you. Are the best person who knows why it should be cleaned. So we need to motivate the ward development committees. I propose that when I become mayor, of course, we are going to be having clean competition, keep clean competitions, that is ward competitions. It worked well. You remember Chingola was once the cleanest city, and because of those clean competitions. So we are going to have clean competitions every 6 months, and we are going to be giving prizes per constituency, as a way of motivating and as a way of reminding people that they have to keep their places clean.
Now, the disposal of solid waste is a challenge. In Lusaka, we only have the Chunga dump site. What are your plans for the residents so that they can have an area where to take their waste?
I think that it is unfortunate, of course, that we can talk about a dumping area, not having many dumping areas, because the Lusaka City Council is in charge of planning. And when they are planning, they plan for places where they should put play parks. They plan for places where they should put maybe a school, a market. So I think that there is still enough land. There's a lot of land that is in private hands, but also there's a lot of land that is under litigation. Some of the land the council loses, some of it they win. So I think that, and some of the land is still being surveyed by the Lusaka City Council. So I think that we are an agency. Lusaka City Council is an agency of the Ministry of Land, and they do actually allocate land to individuals. So we should not have a problem of land. Once we are very serious, I think that we should not have a problem. It should be very easy. But the problem is that once you want to give land, you want to give land all the time for plots. But when plots, maybe you want to give land for, other also viable. But I think that we must come to light to say that whether we like it or not, one day or the other will have to die. But maybe ourselves, but our beloved ones may have to die, and they need to be given a good send-off, a good land be given. So I think that land is there, and we are going to find land that we are going to ensure that it is properly cleaned and properly done to ensure that there is enough grave areas for our people.
You're watching Nightlive, and tonight my guest is the RPP mayoral candidate for Lusaka, Leslie Chikuse. Remember, you can interact with us. Call us on 0950 936 271. We'll be taking your calls right after this break. Welcome back. So now the council is expected to be involved in the city planning, but now it seems that political pressure has taken over the local authorities' powers. How do you hope to fight political interference?
Yes, political interference is a very big problem, but I think that the problem is that the youths are being used, they are being abused to actually collect money for few individuals. And I can assure you, as I told you, I've been youth chairman for Kabwata constituency, under the MMD. And I know that what happens, I think most of the times what happens is that these youths collect monies in bus stops, in markets, and they give them to specific people, maybe a provincial youth chairman, maybe and so on. The money does not even trickle down in the party. If it was trickling down in the party, maybe it could cover a lot of people. But it does not even go into the party hierarchy, file and hierarchy. It goes to individuals that are selfish, that are stealing, that are abusing the youths that could have life, sustaining skills. So I think that we'll go by engagement. It has to be done, slowly, but of course in an expedient manner.
We have Mr. Kafula Chileshe on the line. Please go ahead with your contribution. You're through to Nightlife. We seem to have lost that caller. Please do remember to turn down the volume on your TV set when you're calling us on Nightlife, because the feedback does not enable us to get you clearly. So please do turn down the volume completely on your TV set. How do you hope to use the bus and market acts to protect the marketeers from this scourge that you've just been explaining? Yes.
So what I'm saying is that, of course, the law is very simple. It is illegal to collect money on behalf of the council, and that the cadres are just being used by selfish people. So I think that the best thing we need to do, first, number one, is to look at these cadres. Who are they, and are we able to create other opportunities apart from them having to think that life is about just being in the bus stops? And I think also the other problem is that when people are campaigning, when they're having their campaign promises, they promise too much, and when they get stranded with giving hope, they tell them to go in the station. And you've heard public pronouncements. So we are going to have a council, we are going to have council skills centers.
Let's just take in one phone call. Mr. Kafulachi is back on the line. Please turn down the volume on your TV set and go ahead with your contribution. We seem to have lost him again. Please keep trying.
Okay. So yeah, we are going to be very firm to ensure that we are not going to allow any illegality. The council have to raise funds, and those funds have to be used for a lot of things. They need to be used for ensuring that there's clean water. They have to be used, for ensuring that the places are clean. They have to be used for a lot of things. So we are going to have zero tolerance to having cadres and people in buses and what. But we are going to create opportunity. So we are going to have a situation where we'll be agreeable that we are going to come up with a council skills center where we will give an opportunity to even political parties at a smaller fee to be able to allow their people, their cadres, to be trained in other skills.
Let's just take in this one phone call. Hope that this time we'll be able to get the caller. Good evening, you're through to Nightlive. Okay, we seem to be having a challenge. Yes.
Yeah, so once we train them, then we could also engage other companies, lending companies, and other companies that could be able to help them with a few loans and so on, so that they could have, sustain their livelihood. And where there is space within the council, they could work now for the government.
Okay.
Not work for the cadres, but work for the government.
We'll move you on now to the issue of street lighting. It is a very important aspect of development in communities. But Lusaka does not have street lights that actually work. What are your plans?
Yes, I think that the biggest problem with street lighting is that, of course, we've got good roads. There are some good roads now. But I think street lighting, we need to, as we decentralize, we need to ensure that the streets are done by the Lusaka City Council. The biggest problem that we have is that street lighting is being done by ZESCO. So, and also they charge. So you find that sometimes the streets will be there, even the lighting will be there, but you find that they are off because people are not able to pay. So I think that the Lusaka City Council, once we decentralize, must be able to take charge of, street lighting. But as we do that also, we need to give opportunities to the local people to be able to be given contracts into these issues in certain areas where there is no street lighting. What we have seen is that we have given all the contracts to other people, others, foreigners and so on, and we're not giving so much opportunity. So street lighting, road signage and so on, these are contracts that the council must be given to the local people so as a way of empowering them and also as a way of creating employment. So these are some of the issues that the youth must begin to look at to be able to take charge. That's why we are saying that once we decentralize, we are going to ensure that we take certain compartments or open offices there. For example, Lusaka Water, parts of ZESCO should be within the council offices in the community. That way we would have been able to, would have properly decentralized and taken power to the people.
We have Mr. Daka on the phone. Mr. Daka, go ahead with your contribution very quickly.
Thank you very much. It's on the Lusaka Mayor.
This is the Lusaka mayoral candidate. He's vying for the seat. Yes. Please go ahead.
I know that with confidence. That's the mayor of Lusaka.
Oh, thank you.
You were speaking to Dr. Frank.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Daka.
Oh,
lovely. No, thank you so much. It's really a pleasure to talk to you, Honorable.
thank you very much. I think we did couple of parties.
Could you please turn down the volume on your TV set? We're getting feedback.
It's turned off automatically. I don't know, maybe that's a problem. I've got two questions to you. We're going to take the problem with the issue of value site in Lusaka. You could get me?
We can hear you loud and clear. Please go ahead.
Yes, the problem of value site in Lusaka. What are you going to do? You come in Lusaka as mayor. That's number one issue. Then number two, I think there's this issue of dumping site. I think we've got a very big problem on the value side.
Th-
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your those questions. Quickly, let's just go ahead and you can respond to those two questions.
Yes, I think that the Lusaka City Council is still allocating land. So as they allocate, as they are doing the planning, they must find land for a dumping area, because it's a very important, activity. Solid waste management is very important. But also, very importantly, when you talk about he was talking about where to dump, and then also burial. I'm saying that burial sites, we have given people vast land, and some of the land is not being given. I can give an example. We have got a high chunk of land, for example, when you talk about in Makeni, their Baobab area. There is a high chunk of land which is remaining idle. It is going into litigation. We have got a problem with shelter, we've got a problem with burial. So Lusaka City Council is in charge of allocating land. It is an agency, and I'm very happy that that agency has not been removed by the Ministry of Land, but in collaboration with the Ministry of Land and Lusaka City Council, we are in charge of land, so we'll find land.
This has been Nightlive, and my guest tonight has been the RPP mayoral candidate for Lusaka, Leslie Chikuse, and he's been sharing his plans with us. That's all the time we had for tonight. I'm Francesca Phiri-Banda. Remember to exercise your right to vote on the 26th of July. Good night.